Fair warning. This might be the dumbest video I've ever made. I just started. I'm already making a dumb video. Why, you ask? Because I'm going to attempt to take this cheap, plastic, very pink DVD player that I found at the thrift store and convert it to a high-end CD player. Is it possible? Let's find out next. Now, before I go hooking up this little cheap pink player here and trying to figure out if I can actually turn it into a high-end CD player, let me give you a little bit of context here. I've been making videos since last December, and I have one really popular video, two sort of, but one where I compare a Sony Blu-ray player that I bought at a local Best Buy to a regular CD player. And that video has kind of exploded, and lots of people have watched it and weighed in. And a lot of times in the comments, people give me grief for buying a $300 Blu-ray player. They think it's silly because you can find Blu-ray players and DVD players and CD players at thrift stores all the time. And I actually agree with them. Like, you can find them really cheap. But a lot of other people had great points as well, which is that the quality of those players isn't always that great either. So you have to be careful. And ever since I've been kind of going through those comments and just revisiting and weighing in on that video, it's popped in my head that while I'm visiting thrift stores, which I do pretty much every weekend. In fact, my wife and I went out to dinner last night, and on the way home, we had picked up some Christmas gifts at a store, and I was like, driving, like, you want to swing by the thrift store? And she was like, okay. And so we did. And that's where I found this pink thing, okay? So I've had in the back of my mind that I thought it'd be fun to find just something in the thrift store and bring it home and plug it up and see how it would work. And honestly, I've been keeping my eyes out for just regular like Sony Blu-ray players or whatever. But last night when I saw this thing, I mean, look at this. Ugh. I mean, like, it barely even weighs. Like, when I saw this with this cute little design here, I thought it would be ridiculous to make a video trying to convert this to a high-end CD player. Now, you may be asking yourself, why are you saying that you're going to make this into a high-end CD player? Well, whenever I grab these cheapo things, I always flip them around. Because my other second sort of popular video was, I just gave everyone a warning that if you're gonna buy a used CD player or DVD player or Blu-ray player or whatnot, like at a thrift store or a garage sale or something, you should always flip it around. Because in my opinion, you always wanna look for this coaxial output here. And if you can find this coaxial output, that means you can hook it up to an external DAC. So basically, we're just gonna use this as a transport only. The laser's just gonna read the disc. The coaxial output here is going to send it through an external DAC I have here, and then we're going to send that to my receiver. And so, the joke could be that you could sort of, upcycle this with an external DAC to a player that sounds really great. Is that possible? I don't know. That's what I want to try with this video. So hang in there with me. I'm going to actually connect this now. I'm going to grab the camera. We're going to connect this and see what happens. All right, here we go. Let's see what happens here. Hey, first thing I thought I'd point out is I have to move this gear a lot, and it's really annoying to have to get back there and plug in devices. And so I bought this little miniature tower here, that power supply tower, where I can plug in all my devices, and it kind of goes around. It also has USB power here, which is good because this DAC I'm using actually just runs off USB power, so I can plug that here and not use up a power back there. But it's a little flimsy, it moves a little bit, but I kind of like it. I'll put a link in the description below. I told my wife I bought a power supply tower and she was very stressed out, but as you can see, like even with this not here, it doesn't stick up as high as she thought it would, so I got the wife approval. Anyway, let's, enough with that. Let me get this plugged in. All right. We got a pretty gnarly red light there, and that thing is pretty nasty. I don't know, you can't really see it that well, probably on the camera, but ooh. All right. So what I'm going to do is I actually have this sitting on top of my Sony Blu-ray player, which has a coax output hooked up to this Modi DAC here. So I am just going to simply unplug this and plug it into the coaxial output on this disc player. Now, in my other video, which I'll link in the description below, I show in much more detail how to make this connection. So if this is the first time you're watching a video where you hook an external DAC to a CD player, I actually have a video that shows you exactly how to do that, and I will link that in the description below. Okay, I've got everything plugged up. Let me find a CD, and then we will pop it open and turn everything on and see if it works or not. Okay, so little known fact, I've not mentioned this before on my channel. Maybe I'll do a video about this later on, but I actually used to, when I first graduated from college, I started my own independent record label, and it's called Theory 8 Records, right there. And this was the very first CD I ever released, and I'm going to make a very good guess that this not very well-known album is not going to get flagged on YouTube if any music plays. I'm not going to play it for a long time, but you know, it's hard to find music these days to play without getting flagged on YouTube. So look at that. 920 Woodmont Boulevard, M6. That was my first apartment. I wonder what that phone number was. Maybe my first cell phone number? That's so funny. Anyway, okay, we'll stop doing that. Let's get back to this player here and see if it works. So first thing first, we gotta power it on. Get this horrible red light. When we power it on, that's interesting. I'm gonna lean here close. Let me do that again. That had the worst sound right there. It sounded like knives. Hold on. See if we can hear it. Okay. All right, we'll see what happens. I got everything plugged up, so if it works, we should get sound right away. It's got a nice rumble to it. Oh, that's rough. Oh! All right, well, we got sound. So I guess it's working, it's playing. So basically what is happening right now is we are using this really horribly looking pink thing with this design that is now operating as a transport, and that is running from our coax into this DAC. And now this DAC is running into my Sony receiver here and playing the music. So you could run RCA out of here into the directly into the receiver, but then you would be using the internal DAC, which is on this DVD player, which I'm sure is horrible. So you get a great sounding DAC here. This is a budget DAC. I think the Modi costs, you know, between $100 and $150, maybe a little bit more. And you're running, now I'm running this through this, and we've got sound. Okay, so remember when I was saying that, you know, everyone says, oh, just find these cheap units, okay? And part of the reason why I want to make this video is sort of a warning, because this is a great example of why you just don't pick up any old unit. I mean, granted, this is like a Memorex cheapo, right? But I'm sitting here kind of going back and watching the last take I did to make sure everything sounded okay. And this thing is just going, it's humming and purring. And it, like, I'm gonna get up close so you can just hear what it does when it's idle. It's idle, it's not even playing right now, okay? You ready? Oh, that is awful. That's awful. In fact, I took a few minutes to just see what that sounded like. Like, I just went and sat down for a minute, and I put on a CD I knew would not get flagged on or I knew that would get flagged on YouTube. It was a little quieter, like more instrumental, like guitar type music. You could hear this over the CD while I was sitting at my chair. Like, that is so bad. So, so can you buy any old cheap unit and with an optical, with a coax or a digital output and hook it up to an external DAC? Yep. Should you buy any old unit and hook it up to a DAC with the hopes that it'll sound great? Most likely no. And I mean, granted, I am taking this to a very far extreme using this pink thing. Actually, it just stopped purring now. See? It's probably dead. Let's see. Oh, no, there it goes. At least the drawer works well. There's that karate sound again. I've paid decent money for vintage CD players where the drawers don't even work, so I guess that's something. But I'm doing all this really just out of fun and just to be like, hey, if you're in the thrift store and you see something like, if you see a very cheap CD player or DVD player or Blu-ray player, it might be worth plugging it into the wall and obviously testing to make sure that it powers on. But also, you just want to make sure it's not going to make horrible noises like that. See if you can find a CD in the store, pop it in there. You can actually hear if it's spinning or not and if it's going to read it. If there's a display, you'll be able to tell if it's reading it or not. And that'll kind of give you a heads up on whether or not you should really spend the like $10 to pair it with a decent DAC to get what we might jokingly call a high-end CD player. What have we learned here today? First, this little thing is hot right here. Like, I just unplugged this so I could show it in this video, and this is really hot. It's probably gonna melt. That's not something that we should have learned, all right? Did we really need to learn anything here today? I don't know. I think the one thing that we've learned is that I have free time on my hands, and sometimes when I'm in a thrift store and I see something this hideous, I think, I wonder if anyone else would find it entertaining for me to actually try to plug this up and use it as a CD player. That's what we've learned, is that's the way my brain works when I'm in a thrift store, okay? And I hope that's okay with you guys. I really just want to have fun as much as possible on this channel. And when I see something like this, I was like, I got to make a video about it. I mean, like, okay, so I'm reading this book, like this business book called Start With Why, right? Simon Sinek, I think, or Sinek is the author. And most of the book is like, businesses need to come up with their why for customers to be lifelong fans. And Apple is the one that he always uses as an example, and they create super fans. And it just makes me wonder, like, at Memorex, why? Not like, why are you a company, but like, why did you make this? By the way, the model number on this is MVD2016 P and K. We can guess what P and K stands for. My assumption is the 2016 is 2016, which even then it seems like, why were you making this in 2016? Now, actually, I found this on Amazon, the black version, and it's still available for like $44. And it comes with a remote. And I actually read the comments and people were like, yeah, it worked. Like they needed something small and cheap and, to watch DVDs with. They weren't using this as a CD player. And this is what they bought. But a couple comments were like, it worked fine while it worked. And then it stopped working, but it was cheap. So that's what I expected. Like, you got to love reviews like that. By the way, I don't even think I mentioned, but on the manufacturer's website, it says that, or on the Amazon listing, it says this can play like CDRs and CDRWs, and like it can play more than just CDs if that's something you're interested in. But like, I'm just wondering, like, somebody came into an office meeting and was like, guys, today we're going to make the lightest, cheapest DVD player that can also play CDs and CDRWs that you could possibly think of. And it's going to be black, but we should also definitely have a version that's pink and has this nice little print here. And look, they actually even included that right there. Like, I don't know, they spent the extra money to have that print. I don't know. It's entertaining me. I mean, but look, I mean, it's got a decent amount of output options for you. You could even do S video if you wanted to. So anyway, back to what we have learned. Other than my brain works really weird and I'm buying cheap things like this. But what I hope you learn is that you can buy a really expensive Blu-ray player and hook it up with an external DAC and even probably an expensive DVD player. Although I think like Blu-ray is pretty much the standard now. They're probably not making expensive just DVD players. So like go buy an expensive Blu-ray player. To me at least, I paid $300 for the Sony that you saw earlier in the video. And I actually really enjoy using it as a CD player. And I really love running it through that Ship Modi DAC. Like I have that, I have a Denon CD player that I've reviewed, and I've reviewed a Cambridge CD player. And I keep coming back to this Blu-ray player and that DAC as my favorite listening option when it comes to playing CDs. But, you know, for everyone that left comments in that video about just finding cheapo, you know, players at thrift stores, I'm probably annoying you right now by using this as the example of why you shouldn't. And I'm actually not saying that you shouldn't still try to find those for a great deal, because there's a good chance you can find some really quality players, you know, that aren't that old, that people just got rid of them because they're just now streaming everything on Netflix or Amazon or whatnot, right? But just be careful. Like if you're a beginner and you've never bought a CD player before, and there's a lot of people that haven't, okay? It's 2022 and they want to get one that's cheap because CDs are cheap and they want to get in on that action right now. And they see these piled up at a thrift store. Like just make sure, take a few minutes to make sure you're getting a quality player, because what you're doing when you're hooking an external DAC is you're just using this as a transport. And this is really a bad example, so I'm gonna set it down for a minute, okay? But when you're just using the cheap player as a transport, you wanna make sure that the transport isn't loud, isn't noisy, isn't doing everything that that player did, because then when you hook it up to your player, your stereo system, and you're sitting there listening to your favorite Tom Petty CD, you're gonna actually hear the machine and not the music. And that's not what we want. So if you're out shopping for budget CD players, DVD players, Blu-ray players at thrift stores, garage sales, pawn shops, what have you, just make sure it looks like it's quality construction, and maybe see how much you can test it and listen to the actual machine. Make sure it's not gonna be louder than the actual music is. If this is your first time to my channel and you think I'm absolutely insane for spending time reviewing something like this, was that even a review? I don't know. Don't worry. I've actually made plenty more videos this year reviewing much more proper stereo products. And in fact, I'd love for you to check out the video I made that inspired this video, which is 4 reasons why you might want to buy a Blu-ray player versus a CD player. If that's interesting to you, you can watch that video by clicking here.